Welcome back to another Goku Runner Talks Podcast. In this episode, we have Martin Cavazos. He was a runner, and then he wasn't, but it's all because of his community that he came back. You gotta find the right community in order to grow. And Martin will tell you all about that on this episode. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And if you're on a run, turn up that volume, and let's go. All right, guys, welcome back to another Goku Runner Talks Podcast. On this episode, I have a guy that I met over at Seabrook one day. I saw him recording with a 360 camera, and it's Martin Cavazos. He's here. And how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's great to talk to you again. Yeah, man, Seabrook was awesome, and then we met up again at the Brazos 50.
Yeah.
At the 50 miler finish line, which was an amazing experience of what we can get into later. But yeah, man, all your work too. I like your food blogs. I mean, it's hilarious stuff, dude. You showed a lot of cool places to eat and filled up my list of places to stop by and raid after these marathons.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I did notice you. I think you found that before you found my Goku Runner. I don't know how you found that, but I guess it suggested it to you. I was like,
Yeah,
hey,
probably.
So before we get into any of that, let's go ahead and talk about your running story and how you started. Because I think most people would see you and be like, oh man, that dude's a fit dude. Everything comes easy to him. He's been fit his whole life. And how did your running journey start, or how did your fitness journey start?
Oh man, it started when I was born. No, I mean, really, the catalyst of everything is pretty typical of at least story-wise, right? I got my heart broken in 2017, and I took a long look at myself in the mirror and decided enough was enough. And probably an hour after that little conversation with myself, signed up for a gym, and then from I think it was like June or July, sometime in the summer, and I just started working out possessed all the way until about Christmas time, and I lost about 70 pounds. I mean, yeah, like you said, people could look at me of what I am today and sort of just assume that I've always been this way. Absolutely not. I used to be overweight. I used to be lazy, couch potato personified, right? I was a smoker. I was a heavy drinker, and everyone has that point to where they decide enough is enough. And for me, it was sometime June or July 2017 is when it all started.
And how much did you weigh when you were at your highest?
Oh, 220, and not a good 220. I mean, like soft. So it was not very easy on the eyes to say.
And you're down 65 pounds now, or more probably now.
It was 70. I went all the way from 220. I dropped at the absolute lowest, 149 pounds.
Wow.
And I just started just not so much bulking, but started to take nutrition a lot more seriously, sleep a lot more seriously, and not having such a toxic relationship with food, because that's really what it hit me. And I think there's there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, like they say, especially in the fitness industry where you want to lose weight. I did it the entire wrong way of sort of hardcore fasting and doing an insane amount of hours in the gym, which I mean probably did a little bit more harm than good, looking back at it, because body dysmorphia, toxic relationship with foods. Need I go on?
So when you say you were fasting, how bad? How many days were you fasting? Like doing one a day meals or a 3-day fasting? I know people do that.
One day, one meal a day. It was like a chicken breast and then a cup of rice and a cup of broccoli, and that was for like 7 months. So it was definitely.
You dropped the weight, so and it kind of stayed off. So, but you did say you were having all these other, like body dysmorphia. I'm sure. I don't think you ever get rid of that. Probably.
No.
Even now, if I look back at myself 5 years ago, I'm like, man, I wish I looked like that dude back five years ago. And you're always going to be your own worst
enemy when it comes to your self look, which is a bad thought, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, it's the reality of the thing. It's to choose to ignore it is a disservice. It does
Yeah,
happen, but just accept that you have changed, and it takes a while to sort of come to terms with that stuff. But I mean, you have changed, and you changed for the better, and just keep moving forward with it. Um, that's just the way it goes, man.
so you lost the weight, and then when did you start the weightlifting? Was that
That
that was
that
your
that was
first thing you started, right?
Yeah, weightlifting was probably was the only form of exercise that I was doing.
Hmm.
So it was like 3 hours a day at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had a buddy of mine who was going into the Navy, and we both sort of talked about it like, well, you're going to the Navy, you're going to be super strict, routine and stuff, and I want to get more disciplined, and I hear Jocko talking about 4 in the morning, this and that, so why not? Let's do it. And him and I had just crazy workouts at 7 days a week too. I didn't really believe in rest days either.
Wow.
I was I was
All
like I
in,
said,
all the way, all the
yeah,
time.
I was all in. I was like when I say possessed, pretty much that. My only focus was just the grind, right? And I was
Yeah,
in college too. I had other things to worry about, but from 4 to 7, it was like, this is what I'm doing. Don't bother me. So I started the weightlifting. At the time, I was running uh, probably at the most max was about 2 miles
okay,
or 30 minutes on the elliptical trainer on the weekends.
yeah,
But every day or every other day would be just a mile on the treadmill, which I still do just out of habit before actually lifting weights. I would just do a mile and go on and lift weights for the next 3 hours.
so what was your gym routine? Was it were you doing bro lifting, 5x5, or
I did
powerlifting?
I was chasing more of the aesthetic stuff. I
Hmm.
wasn't really much I was never genetically predisposed to become a bodybuilder by any means. So I kind of knew my capabilities and my limitations, and I didn't want to get shoulder impingement or tear a tendon or a muscle. So I kind of stuck within my little wheelhouse. So I would just do upper body. I'd start with chest, shoulders, and then I move on to rear delts, triceps, biceps, and then that would be Monday, Wednesday, and then Fridays I would interchange between legs or upper body, and then I'm sorry, Tuesdays and Thursdays would be legs, which it was 100 reps on squats, and it was
Holy
like
crap.
it was like 90 reps on the leg press. It was 3 sets of failure on calves. It was 3 sets of failure on hamstring curls. And if me and him were up for it, we would do leg extensions until failure, about four to
Yeah.
five of those. So we were just crazy kids. I was 22 at the time, so I didn't really know too much. I knew
Yeah,
enough to
but it
get me
was working.
by.
You were looking. I mean,
Yeah,
you look good, and you got super like jacked and ripped and shredded, right? So,
yeah, yeah.
did you
I
ever join
definitely
any
leaned out a
kind of
lot.
bodybuilding contests or anything like that?
No, no.
Natural.
Whenever whenever I go into Rocks, which is the discount vitamin store, that they're also my
Mm-hmm.
sponsor. We'll get to that later. Um, I go in and they have that machine that sort of scans your body weight and your muscle mass, your skeleton. It scans your whole body pretty much, right? For lack of a better
Mm-hmm.
words. And the lowest measured that I had was 3% body fat. And
Holy.
I was asked like, why aren't you competing? And I'm like, because I'm over here running, dude. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
to take anything away from the competing world. I mean, it might be something I dive into later down the
Mm-hmm.
line, but for right now, it's just like, I'm bit by the running bug.
Yeah, the muscle's not going to help you in the running. So, when did you start running during the, you were lifting weights and then you're like, let me go ahead and do my first 5K or anything like that?
Oh, probably around, I want to say April of 2020.
Okay.
Peak COVID, I mean, it's running rampant. Everyone's losing their minds. I'm just at home because, at the time, colleges were shifting all over to online classes only. So I took up upon myself to get audiobooks. And during all this studying time and stuff, I listened to Joe Rogan's podcast, and that's when I picked up who David Goggins was.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to the audiobook because I kind of need the noise to study, but it captivated me because of the guy's story and how he sort of saw himself in a totally different way that's unrelated, but it still could fit into my story of enough was enough. And
Yeah.
getting comfortable was the big part because at the time it was a routine. It was a 3 or 4 year routine at that point of waking up at 4 o'clock, lifting, college, eat, home, sleep, repeat, stuff like that over and over. So I decided to challenge myself one day of doing a 2 mile run
Mhm.
after listening to the audiobook Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah.
And uh, I did my first 2 mile run, and then I started sort of using that as a routine inside of my weightlifting. Um, but I never went past 2 miles. And so I Google, because I hear like marathons or 5Ks or 10Ks. I didn't really 100% know what they were, so I Googled local races in Corpus Christi, Texas, and this company VFit Productions hosted during the peak COVID time. They hosted like this Safe Fun Fit program, and they had a 5K. So I had signed up for that like a month ahead or behind, a month ahead of time. So I signed up for
Mhm.
that, and I started training for that. And then I went to go run that race, and I got first in my age, and I think fifth overall. It was
Wow.
my
That's
first
impressive.
5K, and I got a 21 or a 22-minute 5K for my first one.
That's
So
crazy.
the rest is sort of history at that point. This was 2020. I
But were you training for that time, or did you know you
Yeah,
could go that fast? You were, so you were training for that.
I was training, but I never went past 2 miles.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I
Okay.
like 2 miles was the cutoff, and I didn't know anything about thresholds or
Mhm.
pace or breathing or
Kinda like going
striking
all
or
out every single run,
yeah,
right?
just hauling it, just gassing it all the way down. I didn't Yeah, so that had happened in 2020, and my first race, I decided I like it. I was sore after because that the it's not so much the distance, it was the effort that did me in
Mhm, mhm.
to push a little over, like, say I was training at 80%, but at the time running a 5K for me was like pushing it to 110. So I've never had that amount of effort for that amount of time. So I
Yeah.
was sore, deathly sore. I never felt pain like in places that I'd never felt pain before, which is interesting. And I liked it in a sort of masochistic way. I really liked it. So I look
In
again,
true
when's the
David
next?
Goggins fashion,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I look again, and I say, when's the next big run? And at the time, I was thinking I'll do one a month. I'll show up once a month and see what I can do and if I can improve my time or not. So later, there's another race that's free, by the way. That every now and then they'll throw out a free race. Even till this day, they still do, which is awesome of them to do. But there was another race. It was a Halloween race, and this is sort of the first roadblock that I had hit in my kickoff running journey because like you say, people still look at me and think I just do it.
Mhm,
No, not
yeah.
at all. This is my first roadblock into running. So at the
Yeah.
time, I was into. You're going to see a pattern here about relationships, but there was there was a time, right, and I had a pretty um ill-willed partner, and she was just sour-faced, always mad that I was doing these things because I was starting to take time away, and it wasn't so much like taking all the time away from her. It was like this is an hour of time that I could spend on you, but instead I'm spending it on myself. So it's selfish, in a way. But um, so I'm at this race, and she's throwing around a little bit of attitude and stuff, and it plays mind games with me. I run this 5K, I get second place, and I'm happy. I'm having a good time. Like, this is my second race, and I got second in my age group.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. And I look at her, and she just has like this sour face, and she's all moody and stuff. And then I go over, I go back home and stuff, and she's just like giving me an earful about like why I don't need to wake up early to do these things, and I should just be complacent and stuff. And I, for the sake of not hearing that yapping, I guess you could say, for the sake of that, I sort of stopped and gave it up.
Okay. Wow.
Um, yeah, and I catered to somebody else's needs, and
Right.
I still continued to sort of distance run, distance being 2 miles, 2.5. I kind of figured where I was at. So I took 2 years off completely out of the scene of not running, not participating in any sort of events or even keeping tabs. So where the pedal was floored was in 2022. Um, I picked that book up again, and it does magical things, man. When you have a relatable story,
Yeah.
and somebody out there can touch your spirit in such a way that it ignites your soul.
Yeah.
It is magical what could happen. And so I picked the book up again, and I listened to it again, just nonstop from like second one all the way to the last 18th hour, because it's probably an 18-hour
Mhm.
book. So I listened to the whole thing, and then I'd say, okay, well, enough's enough. I'm gonna go out there and do it again. So I signed up for a 4th of July race in 2022. This time it's 4 miles. Never gone past 3. 4 miles. So it seems a little daunting. I'm getting in my head a little bit of like, man, I don't know if I can do it. I've never gone past 3, so 3.5 is going to be really interesting. I hope I can do pretty well. I hope I don't DNF or anything. And I'm starting to train for this race, and I start reaching out to friends that I think would be interested in running too. And of course, a lot of them, a lot of people really aren't. At least that time, 2 years ago, a lot of people weren't really into running. So I messaged my one friend, and I say, "Hey, I'm training for this race, and I see that you run a lot. Is it cool that if I hop in and run with you, and we can get some miles in together?" And he was like, "Well, I'd love to help you, but I something tore. But I know this other guy. He's local, and he runs a lot too." And that's how I met JT Kano, who JT is now the co-captain of our run club, which is Blackjack Run Club.
Mhm.
So I messaged him, and I talked to him about things, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm running this race," and he says, "I am too." So I'm like, "Oh, sweet, I'll see you there." And I
So at
ran
this
this.
time, you hadn't formed the club yet. This was still
No,
just y'all.
yeah, it's just us two being bros, us two just
Yeah.
being bros, and we you know the day comes of the race, I meet him, super cool guy, super awesome. We run the race. I can't remember the time I finished. It must have been like 38 minutes, a 4 mile run, and he finished not too far behind me at the time. And we both placed second in our age groups, our respectable age groups, I should say. Um, we both placed second, and then we were just talked afterwards, just like you and I, for like probably a good hour of,
Yeah.
what's your training like, what kind of shoes do you wear, what's your nutrition, trying to pick his brain, and he's trying to pick mine, but there ain't nothing in there. I don't know anything about running. So I was
Just
running.
you knew.
Before before having any knowledge of running shoes, the difference and stuff, I was wearing like $40 New Balance shoes that were on sale, and I thought
Yeah.
those were good enough. And I got my first pair of Brooks Ghost 15s, and they felt like magic. So it was an incredible meeting with me and JT. So, where the club forms, funny enough, is me and him are running a little bit more of these community races, and that's all they really are, community races. And there's a half marathon. I believe he's ran one before this time, and this is still in 2022. Um, I haven't. So he tells me, hey, there's this half marathon in Victoria I'm gonna run. It's gonna be pretty cool, but you gotta understand that it's different than running a 5K or a 10K. And um, you know, the- and I asked, well, if you're gonna run it, then can I train with you? And we sort of just started meeting up every other weekend or every other day, and just down shoreline here in Corpus. We would run anywhere from 3 to 10 miles. I think the most we did was 11, and then we started to taper down. And I had explained to him, we kind of had this mutual feeling of that there's clubs here in Corpus that are already established. You have the South Texas Rollers, you have No Limit Run Club, the Southside Runners, you have ourselves, Blackjack Run Club, and then you still have a bunch others popping up. At the time, they didn't feel like there was a club that me and JT sort of fit into. So I did this callback to a Futurama episode where Bender gets thrown out of an amusement park, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I'll make my own amusement park, and it's gonna have blackjack and hookers." And he's like, "Well, forget the theme park." And then we're just laughing about it. I'm like, that could be our run club name, but instead of that, it could be blackjack and hokas, and we can wear hoka shoes.
Ah,
That would be funny.
yeah,
So we were like, well, I don't really like hokas too much. And he's like, nah, me either. So we kind of just dropped it and we stuck to blackjack. And so his wife kind of, I got to give credit to his wife, Donna. She kind of coined the phrase or coined the name Blackjack Run Club, as well as sort of pushed us to make it official in a way.
yeah,
So yeah, and it was just me, JT, and his wife for months. It was just us
yeah.
three.
That's how it starts. How
Yeah.
big is it
And
now?
uh, s- man, you caught me on one. Um, I want to say about 10 serious members, and
Hmm.
in total there's about 15 of us.
Hmm.
And we're sort of, I say 15 of us because there's a few runners that are sort of associates with us, not so much like I don't want to say diehard guys, because I mean when they can, they do run, but they
Hmm.
sort of float around, which is totally fine. We're
Yeah,
we're 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 sort of run club that's like, we understand, we get it. Like if you want to train for like sub 25Ks, of course you're going to be with South Texas Rollers. Like why not? Or if you want to be more community based and more enjoyable miles, you're going to be with the South Side Runners or South Side Run Club. And they're
so
sort of
what are you? What are you guys?
the we've sort of become notorious for the distance runners,
Okay, long
like
distance,
yeah,
ultras.
long distance. I mean, for anyone else that's listening, we're not doing 100-mile runs on the weekend or anything like that. It's just where we are in Corpus, the scene has been established, the running scene's established, but there's not so much of us doing ultra marathons, let alone regular marathons or half marathons. A lot of the runners here are dipping their toes in the water on what it's actually like. And if we sort of encourage everybody to run with everybody, but
Yeah,
if you're wanting to start training for a half marathon or full marathon, a lot of people point their fingers towards us because odds are one of us is training for some sort of crazy marathon or some sort of ultra marathon, and we sort of piggyback off of each other's training plan. So we kind of just modify the mile paces, or we modify the distance, or we sort of work around whoever's wanting to jump in. And
yeah,
I think that a lot of other clubs could also do that, because a lot of them aren't so much specialties. There's some people that do specialize, and I think that's what intimidates a lot of people. Although, like for us, although we specialize in long distance running, uh, I mean, yeah, we'll take you on a 4 mile run or a 2 mile run. Like that's no problem. Like it's not going to hurt us any.
So when are you guys
So
running? You guys running just mainly on the weekends, or you
we're
have a set
running.
day?
Well, we're sort of spread out. So we meet up every Sunday at 6 a.m. and when if we're all not busy doing something, where we meet on Wednesdays, and Wednesdays down here in Corpus is the Downtown Run Club, which sort of is a melting pot of the pro runners, us, uh, Southside runners, all the other run clubs are just sort of intermingled and intertwined. And then you have all the newbies, you have the casual runners, the social runners, and it's just a big gathering of runners. And I think that sort of event, I guess you could say, has about at least 100 people, if not more, weekly. So
Ah, that's huge.
yeah, and
Yeah, I started my own running club over here, and like you, when we first started, it was just my brother and I. We would wait in the parking lot for people to show up, and
yeah,
nobody would show up. I was like, let's wait another 10 minutes, maybe somebody will show up, and
yeah.
no one showed up. And then one time, there was a girl walking, like coming from her car, and I was like, hey, are you here for the GTS, the run club? She's like, I have a boyfriend. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't ask that, but
Yeah,
I guess she
that's
thought I was trying to hit
awesome,
on
but that's not helping us at all. though.
her.
That's great. You
So
have a boyfriend. Can you run a sub 6? No.
yeah.
But
It's interesting how you guys started, your run club, and
yeah,
everybody starts the same with nobody showing
yeah.
up.
And a little callback there. I was running, in 2020, I was doing these little runs or the 5Ks at least once a month.
Yeah.
So now in 2023, I'm starting to do just about every weekend. And I don't want to say I graduated out of it, but I sort of moved up to the 10K races to sort
Mhm.
of start training for the half marathon in Victoria. And once that run got accomplished, I believe JT got third in his age, and I had gotten second in my age, or we could have both got second. I can't remember. But we accomplished that race. We do amazing. It was my first half, and it may have been his second, or it might have just been his first half too. So our sights are now set on to the San Antonio Rock and Roll Marathon, and this is where the compounding notoriety comes from of like, we just did this, now we're going to do that, and then we're going to do this again because this is kind of where it's going.
Yeah. And
So
before this, you were winning 5K. You were age grouping in like all your races pretty much leading up to
yeah,
this too.
yeah, not to I mean, there's been days where I gotten humbled, which is everyone needs it. I've
Hmm.
definitely got it. But there's days where I wish, like, there was one guy that shows up and constantly beat me in the 20-year age group, and I wish and I hope that he shows up to every race that way. I could beat him. The days that he doesn't show up and I place, I still feel like I don't win because it's like this dude's out there that
Yeah.
he got me. He has my number, and I got 1 year left in this age group. I've got to get him, man. I've got to get him. So, um, so yeah, I'm doing pretty well in the 5Ks. I'm doing excellent in the 10 because again, the scene's established, but not too many people are interested in the longer distances yet. So it for every 100 people that signed up for the 5K, maybe about 10 of them, 20 of them are in the 10K range too. So I'm not taking credit away from myself. My times speak for themselves of just slowly shaving off minutes on the
Yeah.
10K. So we have our sights set on the San Antonio Marathon, the Rock and Roll Marathon, and it's still just me and JT grinding it out. And there's something about that too. It's not so much, and someone's probably said it before. It's not so much the quantity of the company that you have, but the quality.
Hmm.
I look back, and I'm thankful for the guys that are with us now, the guys and the girls that are with us now. I'm 100% thankful for it. But there's days where I look back on the early days of my running journey where it was me and JT that were just constantly just not so much at each other's throats, but we were shoulder to shoulder in these long distance runs of 15-mile runs and then 18, then 20, and then tapering it down. The
Yeah.
camaraderie that comes out of the running community when you have somebody like that, that's not so much to say as crazy as you, but somebody that's as willing to suffer willingly
Yeah.
alongside you is a sort of camaraderie that you can't duplicate, you can't replicate, you can't manufacture something like that. So
Yeah.
the genuality of it, if it's a word, the genuality of our sort of bond is unmatched. Like I don't know for sure if I haven't met JT that I would have already jumped from a half to a full marathon, but I don't know if he would have jumped from a half to a full marathon either if my crazy didn't match his. So we
See,
were
that's the
kind of about
perfect running partner. It's like whenever you're running with a running partner, you're like, is he pushing it or am I pushing it? You don't
yeah,
know who's
yeah.
pushing who, but at
There's
the end of the day, you both think you're pushing each other, and
yeah,
that's what it sounds like you guys are doing. You guys are
yeah,
both
and
pushing each other
our
equally.
our second, because we had our first 20-mile training run, and we sort of our schedules didn't align that time, so we kind of ran it separately. But when it called for it again, he and I ran it out, and the whole time I was thinking like, who's gonna quit first? Who's gonna walk first? Because it's probably not gonna be me. And then
Yeah,
you know, we get to a point to where we're forced to stop because down shoreline there's cars that pass by. Traffic doesn't shut down for us on training runs, so we sort of stop, and I look at him and I laugh, and I was like, this whole time I was thinking, when is he gonna break? And he's like, oh, that's what I was thinking too. And I was like, man, that's hilarious, dude. That's exactly what this is all about, man. So we go to San Antonio Rock and Roll, prepped, ready to go. Um, this is our first marathon and my first marathon as well. Um, so we show up, we're ready, we go for it, we finish. I cry. I'm sure he's crying because we just accomplished probably one of the greatest feats that we have at the time. And and for the new runners out there that start these longer distance runs, you it's a high that once you feel it, you're done. Like this is what you're going to be chasing for the rest of your running career, and you do feel it again. It's not so much to say that you feel it once and it's gone. You're going to be chasing the dragon forever. You feel it again in the smaller victories that you can't lose sight of. Whether it's running a 5K, but you ran it so well that you PR'd in it, you'll feel it again. And a
yeah, those are
10K,
those
same
feelings.
thing. Half marathon, the same thing. Full marathon, it's sort of a not a vicious cycle, but a very pleasing one because it's like this feeling's not over because it can be done again if I just do better. The
Yeah,
flip side of that, for myself at least, the flip side of that is it's hard. I'm pretty hard on myself, and a lot of people, if a lot of people that know me and that you ask them about me, I'm extremely tough on myself. And I don't know exactly where it came from, probably the way I was raised or just the expectations that I set forward for myself. Like this past week, this past 2 weekends ago, where we did the Harbor Half was a perfect example. Um, you know, I showed up, I was dehydrated, the humidity got me, the heat got me, the elevations got me, and I last year I ran the Harbor Half in I want to say like an hour and 43 minutes. And then this year I ran it in an hour and 55. And I was like stomping my feet. I was moping around. People that asked, how'd you do? Smiling at me. I was like, oh, dude, I ate a bag of you know what, man, an hour 55. This is horrible. This is the worst race I ever ran. And I was just mad at myself. And, you know, and it that's the flip side of the gratitude of this sort of sport, right? Is you can be upset at yourself because that's called accountability.
yeah,
To be honest, you know, me and JT, we ran that would be our third half marathon in 3 weeks. We ran the Victoria half this past year. We ran the UT Houston Health half, and then 6 days later we had this Harbor half. And JT's been grinding away, deservingly so. And myself, I didn't really have my head all there as far as training because I was thinking about my ultra in December. Um, I didn't really have my head all there, and I thought, it's just a training run. It's just a training run. But I let it get to me of an hour and 55, and I was just sour about it. So, but where I was getting at is, yeah, I did an hour 55, but there's people that was their first half marathon, and they would have killed to have an hour 55.
100%.
Plenty,
Yeah.
plenty of them.
Yeah.
So, how would you say that? Like reflecting and gratitude that I'm able to do what I do. That there's stuff like that gets past me, and then once I'm out of the heat of the moment, I decompress and I'm like, yeah, there was no need for any of that. So I
Yeah, that
do
also
have that
shows you're
reflection.
human too. Like that, not every race is gonna be
Yeah,
you're awesome. And
yeah,
you've had some races where you DNF. Did you DNF like
twice.
a few
I
races, right?
DNF'd twice.
So
Yeah.
and what happened with those races?
So okay, I do my first marathon in December of 2022, and then I start doing a couple more. I pick up the frequency. So um, I want to say in February of that next year, I run the Galveston Marathon, and then I thought I'll put on some big boy pants and try my first ultra.
Yeah.
So I signed up for the Prickly Pear 50K. Mind you, this is 7 months of coming back to running. So the workload that I'm throwing on myself, I had no actual how would you say? I had no actual time frame or measure of workload that I was throwing on myself. So I do my first 50K at McAllister Park, the Prickly Pear 50, and I sign up for that one first because I'm getting a little bit ahead. I sign up for that race, and then I tell JT that, and I'm like, hey, I just signed up for this 50K. It's going to be crazy. It's probably going to be the longest I'll ever run. And he said, that's awesome. I would do it, but I'm signed up for Seabrook. And I was like, where's that? And he says, just south of Houston. It's right across from Galveston. And I was like, that's awesome. Do they have a half? And he says, yeah, they do. So I go on their website on my phone and I sign up for the half in Seabrook, or so I thought. We're out training running, and then he brings it up like, did I sign up the right way? And I was like, I think I did. I'm sure I did. And I checked the registration. I signed up for the full marathon
No.
by accident 6 days after I would run my first 50K.
Yeah,
And in my head, I'm unstoppable, I'm unbeatable, I'm great.
I can do
I'm like,
this.
I'll be fine, dude. Don't worry about it. I'll be good. So I run my first 50K in McAllister Park. It was like 6 hours and some odd minutes. It was an awesome, incredible accomplishment. But I didn't really get to celebrate it because I was immediately started to focus on Seabrook. I go to the Seabrook Marathon. It's perfect running weather aside of the mud caused by the rain that was happening at the time. It must have been like 50 degrees with some rain, which
This
me
is
and
the year
cold.
before the year before I met you.
Yes, this is 2023.
Okay.
So it's raining and it's cold, and I'm running a full marathon after 6 days after my first ultra, which my first, there's something there. If you run your first ultra, to the people
Yeah, you get a
listening,
rest.
think about that, and then immediately going off and running a full marathon. Like
Yeah.
it's stupid, but I didn't want to waste the money, so I was like,
Yeah.
fine, whatever, I'll do it, whatever. So,
Yeah.
um, so I'm running Seabrook. I feel great. I feel wonderful. I'm unbeatable, unstoppable, this and that. It's four loops for anyone that doesn't know. It's four loops. So I make the first two loops past the half marathon point, and I'm feeling awesome. Something around mile, I want to say 16 or 18, I was running, and there's this little slight turn, and I hyperextend my right knee just a little bit, but I did it enough to completely blow, and not so much that it blew out or anything, but just mess up something. And I found out it was my IT band. I messed that up to the point to where my knee, just kicking it out, was like a 10 on the pain scale. And that was my first DNF at mile 20. And here's how hard I am on myself again, right? So I'm hobbling, moving over to the little table to tell them I can't go on. I quit. I can't go the last loop. And they said, "Oh, well, you did the half, so here's a half marathon medal." And I was like, "Oh, cool, thanks." And I walk, and then as I'm walking out, I put it back and just hobble off in defeat. And JT is there too, running the Seabrook Marathon. So JT finishes it. He's unhappy with his time. It wasn't the best day for us, but he finishes his. He asked what happened to me, and I was like, "Oh, I messed up my leg, and they tried to give me an award. I gave it back. I don't want anything to do with this race." I was just moping and mad and stuff.
Yeah.
So by the time I finally got home to decompress, I checked the results, and they credited me for the half, and I got third overall in the half.
Oh wow. Oh
So
wow.
I think overall it might be age group. Overall, it's kind of stretching it. It might have been age, but I know I got third place somewhere.
Okay.
And I was like, if I would have stayed and not had my head up my rear, dude, I don't know. So
You
there's a
kids got
pattern
the
there.
picture and everything else.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
could have celebrated something, but my
Yeah.
pride
Yeah.
at the time, my
I've been
pride and my
there.
ego, yeah,
I
it's a
DNF'd the marathon, and then it was 2 loop course, and after the first loop, I was like, I don't want to do another 13 miles.
yeah,
So they
yeah,
tried to give me a medal. I was like, I don't want it. I don't want it.
yeah, that's funny because that happened to me this past March at in the Galveston. I went back to Galveston at the Galveston Marathon, and there was something wrong with my stomach, and I think it was like the gels at the time. I might have had a bad gel. It was just like this knot that was constantly like doing this inside my stomach, and I got to the half point, and I was like, I can't do a full. Just give me the half medal, whatever, you know. But the so while Seabrook happened, that my first DNF happened, we started getting noticed because we made shirts for Blackjack, right?
Mhm.
This guy, I have to tell you, is the story that you'll want. His name is Philip Martinez. We call him Joseph. His Instagram is at Run Joseph Run. This guy's got a story that if it would be a crime for me to abbreviate it. Um, I mean, you want to talk about motivational people or stories that move people. He's definitely one that you want to talk to. I mean, there's nothing I that I can say or that I can think of that matches to this guy.
Mhm.
But I meet him at one of the local runs, and it's a pretty big event. It's the Goodwill 5K 10K. It's pretty big down here. So I meet him there, and we sort of hit it off, and he becomes our official, I guess, third or fourth member, depending on how you look at it, because JT's wife was there from the get-go, and we made her a shirt, so she counts. So Joseph ends up being the fourth member, and then it just takes off from there. Everyone asking like, who are you guys? Where'd you come from? What do y'all do? And we talk about, oh well, we do the 5 and 10Ks, but we're more interested in marathons. And everyone's like, oh, that's awesome that y'all are doing, the distance like marathons. Y'all do that? How many of y'all done? And at the time we were like, JT's done 2 and I've done 3, and that's, and within a calendar year, it's crazy. It's this and
Yeah.
that. So we start getting the not notoriety, something I guess I could say happily, because to have a reputation is worth something, but it's a good reputation, I promise. It's a good
Yeah.
reputation
Yeah.
that we have.
You guys
And
are the long distance guys.
yeah, yeah. And so we start getting other members joining in, like Brandon and our drone guy. Sean Batts. Sean Batts is our drone pilot that shoots all of our
You have a whole
footage.
marketing team now, huh?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the crazy part of it that people just started coming in and that's the other part of it too is that we're more than just runners, you know.
Mhm.
We have some sort of skill that can translate to uh helping the other run clubs create their things. Like has Sean has done work with downtown Corpus Christi, the actual page, and then downtown Run Club. He's done work for I'm sure he's done work for the Beach to Bay, which I don't know if you've ever heard of Beach to Bay.
I heard of that one.
It's when you run from the beach to the bay. Never mind. It's crazy. It's supposed to be a relay race, but
Uh,
I've done it solo twice,
oh,
and
wow.
then me and JT have done it as a two-person relay team, which that's a tough race for anyone out there looking for a challenge. Come do the come do the Beach to Bay marathon solo, and everyone will look at you crazy because it's in the middle of summer. It's hot. There's cars parked on the side of the road, so there's just exhaust fumes, and there's garbage trucks, so there's garbage fumes. It's nasty. It's gnarly, but that just gets me excited, man. I can't wait for next year. So but we start gathering these members up, and we start scheduling these sort of social runs on Sundays, and that's when sort of all the bros kind of came in, and the rest is sort of history at this point. We're still welcoming people in, uh, even if even if you're here for a weekend and you want to get a taste of it. I mean, it's open to everybody. It's open to every distance, every pace, every gender, every whatever, tall, short, skinny, fat, doesn't
Yeah,
matter. If you got a pair of shoes, man, you are eligible to come out and run with us.
yeah.
It
That's what I
doesn't
like
matter.
about running clubs. You know, they're so welcoming. I think
Yeah,
before, back in the day, they weren't as welcoming as they are now. Because I
yeah,
think now the new blood has been more welcoming to run clubs as
yeah,
opposed to
and
before, where they're all about pace. And if you weren't fast enough, then they
yeah.
didn't want to run. They didn't want you.
It, well, we sort of do have even our respectable in our respectable like I don't want to say rankings, but our sort of members, we all sort of have like these goals that we're aiming for in a marathon. Like JT shooting for a 3:30, I'm shooting for a 3:30, Joseph shooting for I think he wants to finish a 4:30 marathon. So there's something there for everybody. It there's the only thing that's not there is you and just
Mhm.
showing up, you know, and it's again it's open to everybody. And if it's not our run club, it's every run club. The toxicity of it, I guess you could say for the most part has been drowned out. Because you know you check your egos out, you know, and it's like I said too when I was talking about JT and I, and when we sort of started forming the camaraderie of it. It's like you really decide who you want around you, who you want in your circle. It sucks enough, you know, and you got somebody that's just constantly just talking crap like left and right. I mean, who wants to be around
Yeah,
that? And it
most
already sucks enough, you know. Don't make it any worse. And it doesn't suck in the sense of like, you know, that it's trash, but it's like the suffering part. And then you have this thing starting to blog your mind of trash talking the other clubs, and it's like why? It's not going to make you any faster. It's not going to get your
yeah,
time any better. You
yeah.
know,
It's
it's
all about
stupid.
you. It doesn't matter what all that noise is. It's all about what you
Yeah,
do. It's not
yeah,
about them. But I do want to
exactly.
talk about your sponsored. You're a sponsored
Oh
runner.
yes,
Paying
yes,
for your
I
races,
am.
or how did that come about?
Okay, so it was awesome. I kind of would joke about it early on about like, hey, and I would tag Rock's Discount. I would tag them like, hey, if I get a top 10 at the Harbor Half, can I get a sponsorship? And I get no response. And then that year I got like 13th, and I was like, oh, next year I'll be back. And then next year comes around, I still didn't get it. So I got third in my age this time around, but
Yeah,
I was like, I'll get it someday. And then
I didn't
I
notice you
met,
doing that. I saw you you tag like Joe Rogan and Cameron Haynes,
oh
and I
yeah,
think he
yeah.
actually liked your one of your posts. So
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Cameron Haynes has liked a couple of my stuff. He's commented on a couple of my stuff. Either him or his marketing agent, one of the two,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
still awesome. It's still awesome. David Goggins is not DM me, but you know, he sort of does a stay hard message about some of the
Oh, that's
things, and I'm
cool.
like, oh, that's awesome. Um, So I've had some sort of elbow rubs with some cool people. Mandy Moves out in Houston. She was a great runner. She is a great runner. I say was in the
Mhm.
past tense. She still is a great runner. I met her in Houston. I ran with her for a little bit there. Um, man, but it was in January when I got signed on and as a Rocks discount athlete, and it was to the credit, the work that I did speaks for itself. There's absolutely no faking what I've done, but the loyalty, the brand loyalty that I had, I've been shopping at Rocks for 5, 6 years only.
Yeah.
So the brand loyalty was there. I just needed somebody to introduce me to whoever it was, and uh, the running community helps each other out. So this woman, Kayla Salinas, helped me out, and she sort of opened the door for me to talk to the head guide down here and to get me at least 5 minutes to talk to him. And I talked to him and I showed him my accolades. I showed him my accomplishments. I told him what I do, what I can do, what I plan on doing. And, he was like, sounds great. Well, welcome to the family. And I was like, floored, man. I was floored to have that. And yeah, the supplements are covered. It's awesome to have that. But the big help comes from getting some of the races. I would say the fees are covered, and some of them. And anybody that runs knows that these race fees really start taking a chomp out of
Yeah.
your wallet there. So it's a
Yeah.
blessing to have them look out for me. They sponsored the relay portion of the Harbor Half. I ran it with another Rocks discount athlete, Aaron Gomez, who is an MMA fighter. So it's pretty cool who I
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
surround myself with. But they also sponsored the Alamo Half, which is cool. It's a medal that opens up and there's a little sword or a gun that comes out of it. It's an awesome little medal. It was a great experience. I'm glad to have
So
them backing me.
they're a big group then. They have more than one
Oh
store or?
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. They're from they're ever expanding. They're everywhere in Corpus. They're in Houston. They're in San Antonio. They're in the
Okay.
Valley. They're starting to open up more up north. They're growing. Another runner who's also a Rocks discount athlete is George Ray, Final Flash Fitness. You met him.
I
He
did that?
was with me at the 50-miler run. He was
Oh, okay.
just sort of hunched over. He was there, I guess he didn't the name to the face. His name's George Ray. He just did Last Man Standing,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
he made it to I think he made it to mile 60 until one of his blisters was just unbearable, and he didn't make the time. But he finished, the last 5 or 10 runners, which out of I don't know how many, 200 of them, that's still something to be proud of. But
Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, that your sponsorship is actually someone that you actually you back
yeah,
and
I mean, every month I restock and I use everything that I buy from the pre-workouts to the creatine to the pro. I don't really drink protein drinks. I use MRE
are you a
from Redcon
creatine every
One.
day guy? I mean, that's what it's
Yeah,
supposed to be, right? Creatine.
creatine every day, 5 grams creatine every day. I like using the MRE stuff because it's not so much protein only, because it's got the calories, it's got the carbs, it's got the little bit of sugar that I require. It's really
Yeah.
calorically dense because my metabolic rate is like 2,500 calories just sitting on the couch. It's ridiculous. So I
I
have to
wonder if
keep.
those would be good for like an ultra marathon. Like
I
you
uh,
drink
I
one of
used
those
them.
every
I I've used
you
them.
do?
Yeah, at ultras, I've done it at the Prickly Pear 50K. I took a shake out there. It didn't upset my stomach like some people would think. It was kept in an ice chest, so it was cold. It wasn't
Yeah.
warm. Uh, my first go around at the Barrier Island Ultra, I used it there again. I kept it. I kept two of them there. At the Brazos where we met, I had two shakers full in there that were completely empty by the end of the day. I really loved using that stuff. I still use it even just as a regular sort of post-workout drink or post-workout shake. I love that stuff. Yeah, you can cook with it. You don't even need like To sort of drink it, you just need the scoops and then two eggs and some milk, and you can bake like pancakes out of it or muffins or a cake. Like that. I was bored one day and I just decided to throw it all together and try it out, and I was like, oh, it's a cake, just
And it actually
uh,
tastes good. I bought a
yeah,
whole tub
yeah,
of
yeah.
some cheapo protein from Walmart, and it's the
Oh yeah.
worst tasting stuff ever.
Peanut
So
butter, peanut butter.
I
That's what my dad tried to supplement protein as well, and he had gotten that probably the same brand that you're thinking of, and he's like, yeah, man, it's just horrible. And I was like, oh, just get a scoop of peanut butter and throw it in there and a banana.
oh no, you do.
It'll
That's the
it'll
secret. I'm
it'll
gonna try it.
mask it.
It's a massive tub. I was like, this is a good deal. I'm gonna get
It'll
it.
it,
And
it'll mask it slightly, but just enough to get it down. But yeah, my sponsorship with the Rocks was awesome. It still is awesome. It's incredible. I recommend everybody that's within earshot to go over. Everyone allegedly uses my code that knows that I have it, at least in the running community. So I'm pretty. I wouldn't say well known, but I'm pretty, how would you say, recognized
Mhm.
down here
Yes,
for as a rocks runner athlete, I guess you could say. And there are, for Corpus there is another runner. um I don't know what all she's got going on, but her name's Leah or Leia, and she is associated with Hot Girls Run Club, which is
yeah.
a cool name. So check them
So
out.
I
They
want to
haven't.
ask you about something that I've seen. I see a lot of you run in a lot of shirts, and you even have a
uh
tattoo of it. So what's the deal with the wolf?
Oh, so where it started was my when I first started running, my mom got me this one shirt, and she thought it was cool, and it was just this face of a wolf,
Hmm.
and I love my mom to death. I love my mom, so I kept it, and then I cut the sleeves off of it, so it's just this big like wolf, white wolf face. And when we were talking about logos, creating logos, I had to incorporate the wolf in it. My fascination with wolves isn't so much that I love the animal; it's the symbolism of the animal. Like
Hmm.
I have a tiger on this arm, which is strength, courage, and patience, and the wolf represents, loyalty and trusting others and stuff. So that the wolf just sort of transcended the sort of white tank that I made, and it started getting involved into the actual run club. The first shirt was a playing card that we took the ace of spades off and we put a wolf on it. And then the second shirt that came around, which is sort of the design now, is the ace of spades with the wolf in the center.
Hmm.
And we're sort of, I don't want to say we've totally moved away from it. The back of this shirt I can probably show is just this giant like wolf fang.
Yep.
just just this giant like wolf bite, shoreline kill crew, we run with the pack, stuff like that. We're not entirely moved away from the wolf, but the design sort of evolved, much as we've evolved as a run club. So change is necessary. We'll more than likely make a call back to the original design sooner or later.
Yeah.
All of our stuff is, I don't want to say like for sale, but if you want it, you can have it. Even the shirts, the shirts. Well, I'm pulling off a hat. Our hats are like, it says Untamed on the
So
brim.
where do you get those from? Is there a local business that makes them for you, or you?
JT makes them himself.
Oh
He
wow,
orders
yeah.
he orders the hats, and then he does the logos himself at home.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
impressive.
so the shirts are outsourced. Our tanks, our recent tanks, JT is done. So we're starting to get away from outsourcing and start becoming more homegrown. But if anyone wants it, just let us know. We'll probably hook you up, or we'll get you in touch with somebody who can get you some merch. Um, but for Corpus, people will be like, oh, blackjack, this dude's associated with him. He's got to be serious. But it's a cool deal, man. There's so much more to cover. There's a lot to talk about, man. I'm a motor mouth and a half when it comes
It's
to
okay.
running. I love it. I love running. I love the community. I love what everyone's done, what everyone stands for. I encourage everybody to go out and do something challenging. Challenge yourself. If it's running 2 miles, run 2.5. Run your first 10K after your 5K. There's magical things that happen when you push beyond your limits and trust your abilities.
Yeah, you've
That's
gone far in you've only been running 3 years, and one of those
Yeah,
years or 2 of those years you weren't running. So
yeah,
you've got a long way to go, and it's exciting to see what
yeah.
you've done so far. I
So
did see one quote that is always on your Instagram, at least back in the day.
uh-huh.
It was nobody cares, work harder. What
Yeah.
does that mean to you?
So Cameron Haynes has that quote. I ripped it off from not ripped it off, but I borrowed it from him.
Mhm.
Nobody cares, work harder. Let's go ahead and talk about my 50 miler DNF. At the Barry Island Ultra, 50 degrees with a wind chill that knocked it down to the 40s. It was raining. It was 30-mile-an-hour winds. Um, I made it to mile 33. I twisted my ankle in the sand. This was on the beach.
Mhm.
With rain and sand, you get voids under the sand, and I wasn't really paying attention, and I step into it. The bottom of my ankle does this gimmick, and it touches my shin, so I just torque the hell out of my ankle. And this was at mile 30, and I have 3 more miles to go to make it to the loop. So I'm dragging myself, much like Seabrook, dragging myself to the loop. And I tell the woman, I was like, do I get credit for running the 50K? Because I'm in the 50-mile bracket, but I accomplished a 50K. And she was like, no. And I was like, what then what? She's like, just take your ankle off, you're DNF'd, you don't get
You're
nothing.
done.
And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. I was like, okay. And then
That's harsh.
yeah, but that's the whole point of it is
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
cares, work harder. So I was thinking about the grand scheme of things, and uh here's sort of the philosophical Martin outside of runner Martin. Um there's over 8 billion people in the world. You have one bad day, it's not going to affect the 7,999,000,000, so on and so forth. It's not going to affect anybody else. It's just you. In the grand scheme of things, when you really look at stuff, nobody really cares.
Yeah.
I DNF'd. I called my dad. I used to call my dad after every race. I called my dad and I told him like, yeah, I didn't finish this time. I twisted my ankle pretty good, and I had to quit. And he was like, uh, "Why'd you twist your ankle? Don't you know you're supposed to run on it?" And I was like, "You're right." And he said, "That's fine. Just go back again." And
Yeah.
and he didn't. I wouldn't say like he didn't care. It didn't affect him.
Yeah.
It was all me. It's all just me in my own world. And when you take a step back, like the Harbor Half, where I finished in an hour 55, when you take a step back and really look at the whole picture, nobody really cares. I
Yeah.
mean, um, so if nobody cares but yourself, it's up to you to work yourself harder to make somebody care, maybe, or just to make yourself proud. But in the grand window of things, nobody really cares. And I could like I just on 5 days notice I signed on to the Bear Island Ultra again, the 50K. I signed on to that Monday, ran it on Saturday, and I didn't see a parade, because nobody cares, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
and
I
and,
mean,
and
like you said, that goes to life and everything else. Like, sometimes you're not gonna do something like you want. Like some people don't want to run without a shirt off because they think they're too big, like me. They're a chubby dude, but at the end of the day, nobody cares what you
yeah,
do. You could do
yeah,
whatever. It's like you
yeah,
don't go to the gym because sometimes you get a little gym intimidation or whatever. Nobody
yeah,
cares. just do whatever, be stupid, do the wrong movement. Nobody cares, and just go out there and run.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
running groups. People always tell me, "Oh, I'm not fast enough to run with a running group." But how do you know if you never run with a running group? So
Yeah.
so just go out there and just do your thing. That's really
Exactly.
what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's two sides to that, right? There's the side that I mentioned long-windedly, but the other
Hmm.
side is let me gather my thoughts here for a second. The flip side of that is don't get complacent.
Hmm.
Nobody cares, work harder. Nobody cares that, my fastest 5K was a 19:56, 19 minutes 56 seconds 5K. Nobody cares, but I care, so I want to work harder to get
That's right.
to maybe an 18-minute. So
That's right.
that's the flip side of it too. But I mean, it's so universal when you sit and think about it rather than take it at face value of nobody cares, work harder. When
Yeah.
you start deconstructing it and applying it in other things, it really does sort of amalgamate these sort of uh, how would you say, these things that you could apply it to, that if you have this giant problem where you're thinking about something too much, you just have to stop and think, like, nobody cares, just work harder, and it's up to you to
Yeah.
work harder.
I like
And
that.
yeah, that's Cameron Haynes explains it as a no complacency type thing of that. It's like, don't get complacent, always keep working harder. But for me, it's more of a reflective saying, at least for myself, and people that have heard it for the first time. I mean, apply it any way you like. Just, you know, take a step back and really think about what that means for a second. That's the same thing like stay hard. David Goggins
Yeah.
always screaming it, stay hard. Well, what does that really mean? It's just whatever life's throwing at you, you're a brick wall of, and if people are throwing doubt and, fears throwing itself at you and life is throwing itself at you, you've got to stay hard, even if you got to be like a brick wall and things are just bouncing off of you. That's the whole meaning of it. And, you know, but some people take it a little too literal and some people don't take it as literal, but that's up to everybody. Whether you do or not, you either do yourself the service or the disservice of following it. I don't know, I'm just a runner, man. I'm just here to run, dude. So, you know
Uh,
it's awesome.
All right, Ryan. What is next for you? What are you training for? I think you mentioned a few of them, but
Yeah,
just
well,
recap
the
for everybody. What's
to
next?
to cap off the last race of 2024, I'm doing the Brazos Bend 100, but I'm doing the 100K portion. I'm
Okay.
doing the 100K portion. My 100 miler isn't until next year. I haven't
Which one are you doing? Rocky
oh,
Raccoon. Come on
I
down with
haven't
me.
decided on it. I haven't decided
February
on that.
1st or 2nd, I
I
think.
I was thinking of the Habanero 100
Oh man,
in
that's the
August.
crazy one, man. I
I was
guess
thinking
so.
I was thinking of that in August for my first 100 miler,
Oh my
or
goodness, you're
or I
crazy.
could I could play it safe and go back to Brazos and do the
Yeah,
Brazos 100 miler, because Brazos is a great place for
yeah.
anyone doing their ultra.
Hmm.
It's a bit of a drive, but if you don't like the beach, which you're crazy if you don't like the beach. If you don't like the beach and you want to get into your first 50K ultra, go to Brazos.
Yeah.
Brazos is smooth, it's beautiful, it's nice, it's clean. Everyone there is smiling, besides the few that are, dying through their
It's almost
their
like a road race too, because it's
yeah.
it's flat.
Yeah, and
So
if you've ran Seabrook, it's exactly like Seabrook almost.
mhm. Yeah,
And there is some portions where you're running on sidewalk, you're running on roads. The aid stations are filled to the brim of all sorts of good snacks, all sorts of good, refreshments and stuff. It's a great race. It's a safe race if you want to accomplish that first ultra. If you want to challenge yourself for your first ultra, I would recommend the Prickly Pear 50K, because it has everything that you need. It has some sidewalk, paved sidewalk. It has some gravel. It has rocks. It has roots. It has bombs. There's this one bomb that it's just a rock bed that's a sharp decline down, and if you're not really got yourself footed, you could easily tumble down it. But other than that, man, it has just about a little bit of everything that someone wanting their first ultra experience, prickly pear 50K is it, I think.
It's a habanero 100.
I'm
You,
plan I'm planning. I haven't really decided. That's for next year's. I'm trying to live in the now. But me and
live in
JT were
that.
talking about it. Me and JT were talking about the 100 miler next year and what's next after the 100 miler. Well, I don't really know.
There's
I
250 milers. There's 200 milers. There's all these other
yeah.
crazy races.
th-
But that's
I've
good.
I've
You're looking, to do more and
yeah.
harder. You're looking
I've
to nobody cares. Work harder. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
are.
man. I got to prove it to myself, and I've toyed around. So look, when I first started running, I heard about the mega relay races, like Blackjack and South Texas Rollers teamed up to represent Fleet Feet and Corpus. So Fleet
Mhm,
Feet's the shoe store, you know.
mhm,
So they sponsored both of our run clubs to participate in the Texas Independence Relay.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
200 miles from Gonzales, Texas to downtown Houston, for those that don't know. I first heard about Capital to Coast, which is 220 miles, and I heard about some guy running that solo. And when I first started running, I imagined myself running that to be like my last effort, my
Mhm.
marquee effort of
Yeah.
I'm done running now. I just did this incredible thing. And then Cocodona happened. So Cocodona is like 250 miles. And then there's another one that's about 350 miles. And then people are running across literal continents. So it's like,
Yeah, there's so much that you could do. I
yeah,
actually heard of a challenge somebody did over in Houston. He just told me he did it like last weekend. It was the running the loop. So he said running the 610 loop the whole way around is just about 59 miles. So I was like, huh, maybe I'll do that one day. Take on that challenge because I need to run long anyway from a 100 miler. Might as well run the loop.
yeah.
And you could just say I ran the
410, you
610 loop.
said? Oh, what?
59 610 loop.
15. Okay.
And it's
And
59
that's
miles.
59 miles.
Yeah,
That
but
sounds
it's all
fun.
urban underneath the bridges and everything. I don't know. He
Yeah.
said it was. He said it's relatively safe. There is like 3 parts where you have to actually go on the highway because it goes across some bayous. So,
All right.
but
Right.
usually you're underneath the highway, so it's not too dangerous.
Right. So so yeah, the Brazos 100 is my I think I think is going to be the cap to my year. Rest up and then go look forward to January. I say I think because my one of my big goals for the year was to hit a 3:30 marathon and I haven't done it. So I have one last shot at it. I think December 30th, we have Corpus down here has a marathon called the Black IP, and
Okay.
it's the whole thing. It's 5K, 10K, half marathon relay, full marathon. The full marathon was just added this year,
Hmm.
and if I if I can survive 62 miles or 100K, and I will try to get a 3:30 that last marathon, and then that would be that would be my year, but that wouldn't be
What's
my
your PR
season.
right now?
3:52, and that was the first
52.
marathon I ran, and I haven't broke it yet.
Okay.
And I don't. I'm chasing that. The closest I got was in Seabrook this year. It was like 3:55. I barely got it, but that was also the first sub 4 hour marathon I got in since I don't know, a year, a couple of marathons. I haven't got broke four in a while, so it was nice to break four again. So I'm on pace. There's something, either it's my training or it's my nutrition when I run. Something there is happening because I'm the first 15, 16 miles I'm on pace for 3:30, and then
Hmm.
it just drops at the end of it, and there's something there that I'm starting to figure out with ultras of where my magic pace is and where I could drop the hammer and really send it home. And I'm finding that more in ultra. And if I'm not fast in the marathon, I'll just stick to ultra.
There you
You
go.
know, so
So
ultra is
how
awesome,
how how
man.
how's your buddy in the Marine? He went to the Marines. How's he doing?
Oh, he's in the Navy.
He's Navy.
Yeah, this was 2017, so we kept in touch for a little bit. He came sometimes, and then he was gone others. So I think the last time I may have seen him was like 2019 was the last time I saw him. But he's moved back. I just don't know where. We've sort of lost touch, but I'm sure once this gets clipped and fed up nicely, I'll send a clip to him of like, hey dude, I'm talking about you here, man.
Yeah, you
So
talked about him.
he knows who he is. So yeah. I mean, I owe the discipline really to him, because he really kept the accountability for me there. He would blow my phone up and call me if I was like, if it was
Late.
4:05 and I wasn't texting him like, let's go, he would just blow my phone up like, I'm not doing this myself, man. And yeah, he really was like the dude that kickstarted a lot for me, at least in the sort of weightlifting category. So I owe a great deal of success to him. Yeah, he was great.
All right, we got one last thing, because I kept you here for a long time already, but
You're good.
we have to do this or that, because I've done it for every other episode.
All right.
We got to do it for this one. All right. So this is real easy. Burgers or pizza?
Pizza.
Pizza. All right. This one is roads or trails?
Trails.
Weights or running? Uh-oh. If you had to choose one to do for the rest of your life, you couldn't do the other.
Well, I can do push-ups and stuff. Running.
Okay.
Running.
And then what's this one? This one is, I did see this, Ironman medal or a running medal? That's how you want to do Ironman.
Ironman's where I'm gonna most likely go once I do 100-miler. So Ironman medal. That would be the next step.
All right, that's it. Where can people find you?
Well, my Instagram is where I'm most active in my social medias. That's at @m_Cavazos58 on Instagram. Facebook, if you happen to find me, just look up first last name Martin Cavazos. I used to have a whole list of socials, but it's just shredded down to that. You can follow my run club, our run club, at blackjack.runclub on Instagram. We're always happy to have people. If we do this again in the future, I would hope to have every member here to sort of introduce themselves to the people out there, and I really would like to get Joseph a little bit of praise, because, like I said, his story is incredible.
Yeah, man, I'll have to reach out to him. I wrote down his name, Joseph Run, right?
Yeah, incredible guy, man. And JT's incredible. Sean's done amazing work for us. I got to give a shout out to Brian Thorson. He's our vet in the group. He's retired Navy, so I got to give a shout out to Brian Thorson. He was injured reserve, and now he's coming out of that. So not injured reserve in the military, but he was injured, and now he's coming back to running. It's great to have him back. It's great to see him out there clocking some miles. Man, go out there, go get some miles, go run, have fun. Most importantly, have fun with it. And hopefully I catch a couple of you people out there, and if you happen to see me, awesome. And if you don't, I'm floating around somewhere. Just keep checking my social. I'll be coming to a city near you.
All right, Martin, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks so much. Thank you for having me. It was great. Thank you.
Hope you guys enjoyed Martin Cavazos' story on how he started his running journey and where he's going. Looks like he's going to go a long way in running, and it's just starting. Make sure to catch a new episode of the Goku Runner Talks Podcast every Monday. I know this one was on a Tuesday, but it's going to be on every Monday. So check out the Goku Runner Podcast. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, do all those things so the podcast can be seen by many more people. See you guys next Monday.